How did you get your first production assistant job?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. I was at a sushi restaurant that I really loved, and it kind of appeared out of nowhere. I was friends with the security guard there, and he always told me that he knew this producer that was always looking for young writers. So I said, would you be able to connect us? And a couple days later, I was at the sushi restaurant, and this producer walks in, and the security guard introduced me to the producer. And I really, kind of owe my start to that producer and to that security guard who ended up hiring me. Or sorry, rather the producer hired me and the security guard connected me. It was kind of a random connection.
Sure, yeah. LA security guards are the eyes and ears of a lot of what happens here
Apparently,
in this town. Yeah,
I miss them. I love them.
That's really cool. What does a production assistant do?
The production assistant ultimately fills in the gaps of production. So anytime there's an issue that needs to be taken care of, it's there to support the producers of the project. So for example, they set up the coolers usually, and then on lower budget productions, they're setting up the crafty if there's no craft services department. They're also making sure they're calling out the roles, making sure that people know when we're shooting, and making sure that nobody walks into the shot accidentally. There's a lot of other things. They're doing runs, they're doing, if they're helping other departments, especially on lower budget productions, you might have to help the grip and electric department. You may, at one point, like I did, have to do the sound. You can kind of do anything and everything, but the producer's job is to make sure you're always shooting, and so the production assistant is to kind of support the producer in that goal.
So you're kind of learning from the ground up, but it sounds like you're really learning all the different moving parts.
100%. I think that being a production assistant really helped me when I became a writer, because it helped me understand what elements we would need to set up a shot and how we can limit on how production heavy a particular shot or scene or script can be.
How many hours a day does a production assistant work?
Oh boy. I think on the first show that I worked, and I don't believe this is legal, but I worked 16-hour days. You're supposed to have 12 hours and then have a 12-hour turnaround at tops. But sometimes the producers get a little bit fancy with the accounting and call everybody at 6, but the production assistants have to show up an hour early and show up at 5, and then wrap around 6, and then everybody goes home around 7. So you're supposed to work 12 hours a day, and you might have to work a little bit more than that too.
So if I understand you correctly, your goal has always been to be a writer, but you worked for 3 years as a production assistant.
Yes, I worked 3 years as a production assistant and an assistant director as well. And those were the opportunities that I had that were right in front of me at the time that would, I was able to make some money off of them. And that was what was sold to me as, do you want to be a filmmaker? This is the route. I would say that it is beneficial to know production for writers, but it's not necessarily the fastest way to become a professional writer.
Do you think you can get stuck there?
You can definitely get stuck being a production assistant or an assistant director, because tends to be a lot of work. It's not the most consistent work, but really as a writer, what you want to do is create your connections within the writer's room, and also have great samples and have great scripts, and also have something that can be produced.
So just as they say that people can be pigeonholed in roles or writing for certain programs, do you think below the line people can also get pigeonholed? Where you feel like there's not a lot of movement?
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in pigeonholed, because I think as a writer, everybody has started off doing something else, or most everybody. So for me, it was, I just wanted to get experience. I wanted to know what the process was. And maybe about 2 years in, I kind of realized it wasn't taking me any closer to being a writer. I got encouraged to do it from some of my college professors, but really it was, it all came down to me starting to tell people that I wanted to be a writer. That was kind of what changed my career trajectory.
How proactive were you during those 3 years as a production assistant looking for other work?
I was very proactive looking for other work. Being a production assistant is not the most steady job, and I had to do SEO writing, I did some journalism, I did some copywriting, and I wanted to find something steady. And that came when I worked at Gaumont, it kind of came out of a chance encounter with the CFO of the company. And I told him I wanted to be a writer, and he said, I don't hire the writers, but I can get you in my department. So I was the finance admin at Gaumont Television. And there I learned so much about television production, about how a show is made, how scripts are rewritten, and what really makes a good script. And I think that the formula was a good script, on time, on budget. And there I worked on Narcos, Hannibal, F is for Family, and Hemlock Grove. And I really saw how, television that I respected was written and produced.
And so was that exciting to you, or was there almost like you saw how the magic sauce was made and it was like a little disappointing?
It was extremely exciting for me to work at Gaumont. I had great coworkers. I really appreciated the culture. I miss everybody that I used to work with. And it was an extremely exciting time for me. I landed at the company a little while before Narcos season 1 was released. And it became this whirlwind in our life. I remember when we got nominated for 2 Golden Globes and everybody in the office was so excited. It was, it was one of the most exciting times of my life, I would say. And just having a community and having people that were supportive and were all kind of dedicated towards the same goal was extremely inspiring. And it was so exciting. I think, for anybody that wants to do it, there is a ton of excitement that comes out of being on that hit show, with your friends and with your coworkers that you really respect and admire.
So here's someone who grew up in Silicon Valley, and instead of waiting for a company to go public and ringing the bell, at the NASDAQ or whatever, you got to sort of be part of this Hollywood, trajectory, this show that did so well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Hannibal I knew, and I wanted to work with Gaumont because of the success of Hannibal. And Narcos was something that I had found out we were going to do a little while after I had landed at the company. So it is novel. I think, Silicon Valley, I've definitely gone to high school with some extremely successful people. But yeah, I think that ultimately you can forge your own path and do whatever you want with your life.
Where did you find the time and the energy to write as a PA?
So, to be honest, as a PA, I was not writing a lot. I was working 6 days a week and then sleeping on Sundays. I had no energy to write anything. Once I finally got to Gaumont and I had something steady, what I would do is I would go into the lobby of the Pacific Design Center and I would just write for 3 hours when I could find time, if I wasn't, if I didn't have something else to do. But in the off days, I would go home, go to the lobby and just write. And it was just a discipline. Whenever I could find time, I would just do it. And if it's important to you, you have to do it because you only have one life to live. And so you need to get everything out within the time that you have, which is finite, and you don't know when it's going to end.
Right. I think that's such a dilemma here in this town is because people get these jobs and some of them pay so well, but then you get trapped into a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then you have to weigh, okay, what I really want to do, is this it? Because now my lifestyle is based on I'm making all this money and things are happening for me, friendships are formed. But yeah, at what point did you say, I really want to be writing? I don't know if this is for me to be working all these hours.
That's a great question. I think that I always knew I wanted to be a writer. So anytime I would get an office job, I would kind of know, okay, this is, maybe temporary. Gaumont, I really loved my time there. But I had so many stories to tell. I just never really said, okay, I'm just going to take this job and that's going to be the end of it. I really wanted to be a writer. I really wanted to create, and I was having so much fun writing my scripts. There was no way that I could stop. And it never even occurred to me, maybe until until many years later, that I should, just take a steady job. I always, in my mind, wanted to be a writer. And I think, if you can take the steady job and that's it for you, then that might be a good option. Because writing is difficult. It's not, there's so much uncertainty these days, even with, extremely seasoned writers and, veteran writers. There's so much uncertainty. So there's always an opportunity cost that you're incurring by becoming a writer. I think there's fewer than 12,000 writers in the guild, and there's 12,000 millionaires at Microsoft alone. So the market for writing is so much smaller than the market for software engineering or even working in tech at one particular company. So you are going to make some sort of financial compromise to be a filmmaker, to be a writer. And you pretty much have to be okay with that, or have to not even think about that.
What do you say to anyone who says they are too tired to write after their day job?
I really respect that, honestly. I think that day jobs are extremely taxing. It is difficult to write after a day job, and they're also very stressful. So I have 100% empathy for those people that can't write after their day job. That being said, if you want to be a writer, you still have to find the time. So if I were to talk to my, younger self, and I was a PA, I would say, okay, you're going to work, Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday is going to be the time that you write. Or if your job is too taxing, if you can try to find another job, which is not simple at all, but if you can find another job that doesn't tax you as much and you can still survive off of that, then that's another strategy you can use to try to carve out more time to write. But yes, if somebody's very tired after a long day of work and can't write, then I 100% respect that.
Looking back on it now with everything that you've learned and how life has gone by, 3 years as a production assistant, do you think that was the right choice, or it's just what was presented at the time?
I didn't really have any other choices, to be honest. I wasn't great at networking. I didn't know how to find new jobs, so I kind of just stayed with the jobs that I had. I was looking, definitely, but submitting my resume online wasn't really working. So I just kind of leaned into my connections and I tried to find work with the people that I knew. I think that if you want to be a writer, then there's a few ways you can do it. Right now, television writing is contracting. It's harder and harder to break in, and even, there's fewer and fewer opportunities everywhere you look. I think that if somebody has a movie that they want to make, independent production is a good thing to look at. If you can write a practical movie and maybe crowdfund it or raise a small amount of money or get people to kind of work for free, then that might be a route of making their movie. It's still going to be extremely challenging, and when they're working for free, they're not going to be as reliable. But as far as getting something made, that's the thing that you have the most control over, is doing it independently. With the studios making fewer and fewer projects, you might be relying on, a smaller market.
So then, and I'm not trying to knock any type of production job. Yeah. It sounds like sometimes, though, maybe the easy route is, if you know what you want to do, have it be something that you do on the weekends or when you have time off. You said that the production assistant job wasn't reliable, so.
I think it's always important to try to take steps towards the goal that you want to accomplish. And again, I was working with a DP many years ago, and he had all these ideas of everything that he wanted to do, and he was in Vietnam one day and he had a heart attack, and that was the end of everything for him. So,
oh, wow.
You never know when it's going to end, and it's really important to kind of focus on ultimately living the best life that you can. And if you want to be a filmmaker, that means probably making a lot of films or writing a lot of films. And I would say don't wait.